Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted to have with us Kevin Fernandez, who's the Managing Director at Rafis Spicebox. So firstly, Kevin, thank you so much for taking part. If you'd like to introduce yourself and Rafis Spicebox to the audience, that would be great.
Will do, thanks. So I'm Kevin. I'm the Managing Director of and owner of Rafis Spicebox. We're a family business, been running 33 years. We have a chain of retail sites selling bespoke hand blended spice mixes. The business started by my mother 33 years ago, as I said. And yeah, we just try to offer a great solution to customers who are trying to cook Indian food at home.
Wonderful. And for anyone that's not been in, I'd urge you to go in. Just the wonderful smells you get as you walk into the shop are just brilliant, and the quality of the products are fantastic. And so could you just start, Kevin, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and obviously we know why this particular one, but what was your route in?
Okay, so yeah, fairly straightforward. I was present around the start of the business. I was 18, 19 when we started. And as most children involved in a family business, I was dragged in and stacking shelves and doing all the usual stuff. Then I went off to university and studied up in Leeds. And then following that, I joined various organizations, worked for about 10 years in marketing roles, finance. I worked for a bank for a while. And after about 10, 11 years, kind of getting slightly disillusioned of that corporate world. And the Spicebox was doing okay, but it had its typical challenges. We had that one store down in Suffolk. I decided to join the family, and we opened our first store outside of the original up in York. And so I opened that along with my brother, and kind of we didn't really look back since. We've kind of it's kind of grown from there, really. So
brilliant. Wonderful. So was going into this sort of business something you'd always planned to do, or did you have another career planned?
No, not really. I think I studied business management at university, so I'd kind of had a fairly broad kind of set of skills and experiences. And as I said, I worked for the bank, I worked for a marketing agency, I worked for an online firm, and it was all fine, but I had no real aspirations to join the family. I knew it was quite challenging. I saw my mum, and the amount of time and effort and energy she has to put into it. So it was never really part of the plan. But I think it was more to do with the fact that the corporate world outside of that wasn't really for me, and I wasn't really driven by, the job titles and company cars and expense accounts and flashy business cards. None of that stuff appealed at all. But I hadn't quite found the niche for me. So.
It makes perfect sense, actually. My first business, we grew up and we sold to Siemens, the big German engineering company, and there was an opportunity to obviously continue a career with Siemens, but it didn't really work for me. I couldn't see that big rigidity and really being quite my thing. So I could totally get that completely. And speaking obviously of the challenges of the business, what are some of the biggest challenges you will have to overcome over such a long period?
So I mean the obvious ones are obviously the economy for us is a real barometer for our kind of success. We've been through lots of different challenges in terms of that, but if you think about our kind of business and the challenges that most businesses face, we're a multi-site retail business. So the high street at the moment is going through its challenges. We have 11 sites across the country, and the high streets in all of the towns are struggling and in their own way. We import our products from overseas, so the supply chain, the freight, the transport, the availability of goods, that kind of stuff is still a challenge. Just generally in terms of people, I'm not sort of telling anybody anything they don't already know. Recruitment at the moment is the hardest it's ever been. We do exceptionally well in terms of retaining staff. We're very good with that. We've been very fortunate. Considering we're a retail business, I've got members of staff who have been with me 15 years plus. So we're very proud of that, but it's just finding good people at the moment. So yeah, all of those things, you know, and as obviously things at the moment with all the costs going through the roof, and so yeah, typical kind of balance of all of those challenges, really.
Yes, no, I completely get it. And you haven't mentioned COVID. I would imagine that must have had quite a big impact on you guys too.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it might sound slightly flippant, but COVID was relatively straightforward to navigate in the end. Very, very early on, we had some more worrying moments in that we just didn't know what to do. And so we actually took the decision to close all of our stores fairly early, purely to try and kind of keep our staff safe more than anything else. And we did that with no real kind of knowledge of how we were going to survive, because obviously this is before furlough and before grants were arriving. But we were very lucky that we have an online business and our customers are incredibly loyal. And they just kind of, you know, went to our website and bought everything online. So we were incredibly lucky that actually we survived COVID pretty comfortably. Looking back, at the time, I don't think it was comfortable, but certainly now I look back and think, yeah, our customers and our staff are incredibly loyal, and, you know, very kind of committed to our cause. So that kind of very helpful for us.
Wonderful, wonderful, great to hear. And I guess having that online presence already up and running was a great thing to be able to, for people just to move across, because obviously quite a few, well, lots of businesses didn't have that outlet, and that was obviously a big challenge at that point.
Yeah, we've kind of taken for granted that we've had our website running in its current form for, I don't know, 15 years probably, and it's always been fine, and it's never really, it's kind of been a nice source of income for us, but it's always been a support function to the shops. The people who come and see us will definitely, I think, agree that the service that you get from us, and, you know, the smells and everything that you see and all the family knowledge and history comes across in the service that you deliver, and it's very quite hard to replicate that online. So where our online solution comes in is really just supporting people that have been to the shops and then don't have a shop that's local to them. But what we definitely saw during COVID was that actually it became a really important resource for people, and we attracted lots of new customers who had stopped being able to go out to eat and, you know, to spend their money on meals out. We became an alternative, and you can cook at home for a fraction of the price, but still have something authentic and interesting. So.
Yes, and 100%. There is no alternate to going into a store like yours. As we said before we started, I was in at the weekend, and the first thing is the smell, the beautiful layout, and then obviously the ability to taste one or two things I was offered. So I'd urge anybody to go in and just try things out and experience it, because it very much is an experience.
Yeah, and, you know, retail is now it's moving that way. It's all about that experiential kind of element to it. We don't really want high street stores just to be full of racks and racks or shelves and shelves of product. We need people with knowledge, and, you know, you need to have some sort of sensory involvement and to be able to touch and smell and feel things and learn about things. And that's we've been very fortunate that we were doing that 33 years ago. It was kind of accidental. That's what we've always done. It's just that's the way retail has moved, and we've kind of found ourselves quite well suited.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's the way it's going. Is it? We want to go to a high street where we can experience things. I think there's a lot more entertainment involved, and it's just that whole, you want to go there as a day out, rather than, as you say, just to pick some shopping up. We can now do that very, very easily online. That's any retailer that's not that is still purely providing an ability to pick up goods is probably going to struggle over time, I would think. So what are some of the biggest learnings that you've had about business over time, Kevin?
So I think the two biggest things is the ability to learn and change. I've been incredibly fortunate in some of the staff that I've employed. Some who were very junior and hadn't been with us very long, but just learning from them, different, understanding their kind of social backgrounds and their economic challenges and their, you know, educational ambitions. All of those things have really allowed us to shape the business for our team and for our people. And so the second part of this is to really focus on my people, and we spend a lot of time thinking about them, nurturing them, trying to develop them, and also gaining lots of support from them. So it's a really two-way. I'm not one of these kind of people in terms of the business of just sort of dictating how we do things. We're learning every day from them, and particularly we've got 10 shops around the country, so 50 people, you know, at the coalface, if you like, talking to customers. They're the ones with the best source of knowledge for us. So we learn a huge amount from them. We get loads of feedback from them, and then we try to adapt our business accordingly. But I think the last couple of years, people have always been incredibly important to our business, but throughout COVID, we did a lot of things that probably might seem unusual in terms of the way we looked after them. We did lots of social events via Zoom, and I sent out care packages, and I was very, very conscious about how difficult the world was. And some of my staff have their own challenges, and I just kind of look after them, and it gets repaid time and time again. So it's not, I don't do it for a commercial benefit. I do it because I think I'm a nice person and I try to look after my staff, but they're such an important part of the business. They are far more important than any product or anything that we ever create. They are the key. So look after them, and then they will look after you without doubt.
Wonderful. Great to hear. And you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know whether it's in business, sport, or life, who are the best coaches that you've worked with, and what makes them so.
So I have to be careful because I think she's in earshot, but I will talk about my wife. So my wife I met at university, and so we've had a kind of similar path in terms of going to university. We both went to university slightly later after experiencing various other things and traveling and so forth. Right. And then we both moved into the kind of commercial world straight after graduating. And she's worked for very large organizations and progressed exceptionally well, and become very senior in lots of them. And she's always been an amazing sounding board for those kind of, particularly in terms of the people-based things. Yes. In terms of how do you, I can be nice and generous and look after my stuff. I can do all that stuff, but some of the more kind of technical and sort of formal kind of element of how to support your team, what's the best way to do things in terms of HR, she's been exceptional. And so pretty much every week I would be coming home and saying, okay, I've got this little problem. I've got a challenge with a member of staff who's got this, that, and the other. And she'll give me her view in terms of this is what we would do in the corporate world. And then I can then mold that into, okay, I can take some of that and blend it into what we would do. So I always have it feels like we always have a very professional approach to running our business. And yet we're still very human and very personal and totally understand people's circumstances, and therefore can adapt accordingly rather than, being very rigid in terms of that corporate world, which always feels like, this is what the book says and this is what we do. Whereas we basically say, well, this is what the book says. Let's see how we can best make it work for our staff. So she's been a brilliant source. And, being your own boss and running your own business, you are constantly coming home and bringing that stuff home. So she's always been that kind of perfect person just to listen to me moaning, or there when we're receiving awards and getting all the accolades. So it's great support. Brilliant,
absolutely brilliant. And have you picked up? I love to pick up favorite quotes or sayings or things that you fall back on in either difficult or successful times.
So the only one, I guess, I tend to go back to, and it feels like a terrible cliche, so I would never necessarily publicly use it, but I always keep it in the back of my mind that the worst decision you can make is not to make a decision. And I think we see businesses, and I see other businesses being a bit kind of procrastinating over decision making, and you have to be brave and bold in your thought process. I'm very passionate about what I do. I've got a lot of knowledge on the products, so I feel with that I'm in a good position to make these decisions. But you have to be brave and do that.
Brilliant. Funnily enough, we've got a similar saying that came from our founder Brad Sugars, which was the biggest risk you can take is to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it fits. It's decision and actions, isn't it, Kevin? And it one thing that's quite common with successful people that it is the ability to be comfortable with making decisions, taking actions, and accept a level of failure that may come with it. That not every decision and action is going to be the best, but by not make, but by making it, at least we're moving things forward and making change. And change is the only constant out there, especially
Completely.
the last few
Yeah.
years.
And being in retail, it's very apparent. You can walk down any high street and see the evidence of retail businesses that have just stood still and been complacent and trying to rest on, you know, the huge amount of success they would have had years ago. You can, I won't name them, but you all know of huge retail chains that are no longer with us, and, you know, huge favorite brands, but they've just stood still and not kept up with the times. And you've got young disruptors coming along to the market, just changing the world we're in, and you've got to keep up with that.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, obviously we've seen some recently, but I do remember as growing up and all the way through to see Woolworths as a brand where, you know, ultimately the only thing I would ever go and buy from Woolworths was a birthday card or some sweets, if I ever did. And yet, if you go into, you know, they had loads of things in there, but they didn't market themselves. They didn't really change. And there were definitely, you know, better retailers and all the other things they sold. And I completely agree. It's standing still just isn't an option, is it? In such a busy, changing environment. And what would you say you've learned about yourself over your journey?
I guess I have got. I go back to my previous points. I am getting better at adapting and learning and changing some of my philosophies, not just in terms of running the business, but in life. I've got a handful at the moment of really good young members of staff, and there's a couple that are they come from very different backgrounds to me. They've got very different views on the world, and I love listening to them, and I love learning about it. It's not about learning for the sake of just, you know, having my own opinion voiced. It's just about absorbing opinions from other people, and I love that. I really love that kind of and adapting our business towards it to make sure that we're constantly moving. So, you know, I'd give you an example that things like gender equality, for example, I've kind of completely taken for granted because that's what we've always done. I've never thought it was ever an issue, but now it's a different world. It's not as simple as male versus female. There's a whole wide range of challenges that you face within that, and it's my younger staff that educate me on that, because I'm old. I'm never going to kind of learn about that stuff very easily. I'm very lucky. I've got a daughter who's 21 who challenges me in these sort of things, but I also have people in the business that challenge me, and I think it's only better for us as a business. We've become more knowledgeable and more approachable, and, you know, ready for whatever challenges we're facing.
Brilliant, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And so looking forward, I guess, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges may you face, if any?
So I'll go back to those original challenges. At the moment, they're at the forefront of everything we're doing. All those obvious ones, I think, the cost crisis, the financial crisis we're in the moment, what that does to our footfall, what that does to our bottom line in terms of costs. But we strongly believe in our product, and we really believe we offer a solution to consumers. It sounds terribly cliche, but I do think customers that come to our shop we do impart some knowledge to them, and we do make their life ever so slightly better. If I can give somebody some good food once a week, then I think I've made their life better. And so we will keep this as kind of our motto, if you like, that's the thing we want to do. We want to continue employing people that we could develop and give a career to, and we want to continue to feed people well. And as long as we're kind of, you know, we are bold with our decision making and confident in our product, I think we'll overcome those challenges. We've been through many more challenges in the past, and so, you know, it feels like when you're in retail, they keep throwing more at you, and we'll just keep going.
I can really empathise with that. I can see that. I think retail's had the biggest challenge over time, hasn't it? Over so many different things. And one of the quotes I picked up a little while ago from a lady, which I love, which was, "We've all survived 100% of our challenges so far." And I just think that's a great way of looking at it. It doesn't always feel great at the time we're going through them, but we have all survived them. So, and just on that note, what would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Kevin?
So from the businesses that I see arriving and have arrived over the last years. I think the key thing is to make sure you're brave with your decision making and be bold, but also to be cautious that you don't rely solely on passion. I've seen so many businesses arrive where people are driven by an incredible passion, and I love that. It is lovely that, you know, fundamentally you've got to be able to do something that you love. Unless you have the fundamentals of how to run a business, how to look after people, how to manage your finances, those real fundamentals, unless you have those intrinsically kind of linked within the business, the passion won't take you all the way. I think I watched my mother go through it, and she was incredibly passionate. And she managed to keep it going and keep it alive, but it was a real struggle. And it was when I arrived with the support of my brother, bringing in some of the real kind of basic kind of management principles of running a business, that the two combined gives you a much kind of stronger platform.
Wonderful. No, that's great advice, because I think it's that balance of brave but caution in terms of do your homework, do your research, have a plan. It isn't just about passion. And I similarly obviously come across lots of different businesses and business people, and it's a reason actually we don't often work with startup companies, because I think that there's so, and rightly so, there's so much passion and desire, and they know exactly how it's going to work, and you can't there's not really any room for advice or knowledge. Unfortunately, they often need 2 or 3 years of having challenges and problems, and to realize maybe there is some other things out there that could help. So that fits very strongly. And if you look back over the business as you've been involved in, is there anything you would have done differently looking back?
I think we should have probably been a bit braver earlier. I think when I joined, you know, fairly soon after I joined, we hit our first set of challenges in terms of sort of heading into small recessions, and footfall was very heavily hit. But I think we could have expanded the business sooner. You know, I love hearing stories from our customers who ask us to open a shop in their local town, and we could easily have had, you know, 20, 30 more stores than we do now. I think it would have created further headaches, but I think it would have maybe given us a bit more of a platform to grow. Kind of, it's been a long, slow process, but we're also very comfortable with that. We're not ambitious, so ambitious that we want a store in every city in the country by any means. But I think there could have been opportunities for growth sooner, potentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so?
I keep going back to it, and I think this is something I talk to my daughter a lot, is about not losing sight of that desire for adventure. And so when I joined the business, all of my peers at the time thought I was mad. I walked away from a company car, a nice, you know, very healthy salary, very safe kind of environment, with a team of people that did most of the work for me, and it felt very, very comfortable, and everyone thought I was crazy. And you know, it's my family, fortunately, I guess, coming from overseas, of both immigrants to this country, have always shown me that adventure. And you know, I think that's what life's all about, is about taking those risks and you know, seeking new challenges. So I guess if I was talking to myself again, I'd just say, yeah, be open to that and be brave enough to do it.
Wonderful, great advice to anybody. And Kevin, it's been really fascinating, really interesting, and again, I would urge anybody that has a Rafis Spicebox close to them, or they see one when they're visiting a new town or city, to go in, because the experience alone is wonderful, and the product and the quality of the products is amazing. So thank you so much. If anyone would like to know a little bit more, Kevin, what's the best way of contacting you or Rafis Spicebox?
So you can get to our website, spicebox.co.uk. There's loads of information on there. There's even contact details direct to me and to my team, and obviously on all the social media platforms you can find us as well. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much.